Hi, we're here at Idea Lab at WHU in Koblenz, Germany, and we're here with Roberto. Roberto, you are a VC for Belderton Capital. How did you become a VC?
I didn't. It was a mistake.
It was a mistake.
Yeah, really. Just it happened. I didn't plan it for it. And I would recommend that nobody plans for it. The best thing is spend some time building companies, and then automatically happens at some point that you might help building companies of other people.
Now, when you say building companies, in your speech you said you learned swimming by your brother just tossing you in the water. Is that the way you would recommend people to start companies, or would you consider planning important, or, how would you go about or recommend people to start companies?
It depends. There are different ways. I don't think there is a way that is right or one way that is wrong. In some cases, could be very good just to go and work with an entrepreneur and be part of a startup. In some other cases, you may have a strong idea and build your own startup. But definitely what I would recommend is that if you want to be at some point in your life an entrepreneur, you want to start your own company, you might be better off being inside what I will call the startup ecosystem. If you go to banking or consulting, it's usually more tough, more difficult.
Okay. When in your speech you mentioned that you felt that there is the same vibe going on in Berlin, for example, as it is in the Valley. Why do you think it is that we didn't see any huge exits so far in Europe? You mentioned this in your speech.
No, I mean, I actually said something different. I actually think we are starting seeing some very interesting exits in Europe. I mean, just last week we invested in a company in 2000 called Betfair that went public in the London Stock Exchange, and nowadays is worth about $2.5 billion. That's a pretty major exit. But what I was trying to say about Berlin is I just think it's a very special place. It's for many reasons. I think one reason is the city itself is a bit of a startup. And as a result of that, tended to attract startup people and a startup type of environment and a startup type of culture. But it's super early, right? I mean, this has been happening for the last few years. The Bay Area and San Francisco, they've been in the world of tech for 25, 30 years. So, it's going to take time. But I have zero doubts that, next Facebook and next Google are going to some of them will be created in Europe.
Why do you think this didn't happen so far? Just because we lag a little bit behind what happens in the US, or is there a problem with people starting companies, not thinking big enough? You mentioned that their German founders, for example, they might have the handicap of thinking, all right, German market is big enough, we don't need to go global instantly. And you also said that this is changing now. Do you think that's a prerequisite for this, also in terms of what VCs are interested in, that they see bigger deals, bigger companies happening right now?
I think it's about the overall maturity of the ecosystem for all of us. I think it's the maturity of the entrepreneurs, it's the maturity of the universities, it's the maturity of the VCs and the investment community as well. I think the fact that today being here, the WHU, I think is pretty telling. I mean, this is a business university in which there are lots of kids here around that they think about their next move, and instead of thinking to go to McKinsey or Bain or Goldman Sachs, they're thinking about starting their own company. This is pretty major, and to develop this type of culture takes time. So I think it's just for all of us still, quite immature, but at the same time, I think, my point is great results are being achieved. If I look within our portfolio, as I mentioned, Betfair, MySQL, Bibo, and outside our portfolio, company like Skype. I mean, clearly Europe is demonstrating that, there are lots of multi-billion-dollar companies that can be created on this side of the ocean.
Now, when you talk about founders, in your speech in the beginning you said you're the handsomest guy in your company. What other reasons would founders have to work with you?
With me personally, with my firm?
Both.
I think the truth is, look, one reason is very obvious, right? Because we can help you with capital. The second reason I think is a more important one, because we as a team can help you to build your company. And we can help you in the company building process, because some of us have done it, because we have seen many other companies, and that's really where I think we can be quite good at.
All right, great. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much too.